Tape Deck Media.
And we are back after a week off due to some scheduling conflicts. Panel Picks, the show where we discuss New Comic Book Day, comic book related news, and everything in geek culture is back. Episode 19, baby. Yes, I am your host, Dan Bublich Jr., of course, Jeremy Plum, our other host. How's it going, Jeremy?
Warm, but good.
Very warm, yes. We were talking about this before we started recording, that neither one of us have AC in our places right now, and we're like, well, I need to make this episode somewhat quick so I can get out of my apartment and go somewhere where there is AC. I do have a fan, but I can't let that run right now while we're recording. Because
I have a window AC upstairs, and so that's in the next room, but I got to get over there.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I have a window AC or a wall. Basically a window AC, but it does not work. But it's getting replaced tomorrow, so hopefully next week I'll be cool as ice cube or something. Cool as a penguin. I don't know. That was lame.
Cool as cucumbers.
Cool as a cucumber, but are cucumbers cool? I don't know.
Yeah, crispy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I ended up reading a bunch of comics this week, but it sounds like you read something else this week?
I did read something. I read something kind of comic adjacent. I did. I say that because it is a book, but it is an illustrated book that a friend of mine recommended. They said that they were surprised. We were just having a conversation about books and authors, and I hadn't heard of this author, and I hadn't read the book, and they were like, what? This is like one of the greatest books out there. And I was like, okay, well, I'll be the judge of that. So I guess you're saying we should go into the what are we reading, huh?
Yeah.
All right, well, here we go. All right. Well, the pick this week of what are you reading is The Giving Tree.
Yeah.
And I could not believe I hadn't read this.
So you're saying you've never heard of Shel Silverstein, like, at all?
At all. I mean, maybe I've heard the name, but not enough that it had any placement in my memory bank.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, he's written a couple of a couple of movies, but like also a lot of really famous children's books, like where the Sidewalk Ends,
and poetry. Well, I don't know that Where the Sidewalk Ends is considered a children's book, is it? Isn't that a book of poetry?
Well, poetry mostly aimed for children. Yeah.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, again, I don't know as much about him as
worries.
I think I should, but I read this. I actually read this at a silent book club that I try to go to when I can, and it was kind of interesting because it didn't take me very long to read this book because I had no idea what I was getting into, and it's a very quick read.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Shel Silverstein, like, really famous poet, mostly again aimed for children. The only thing that I remember that's the most adult thing is some of his art. Like, he drew this as well. Some of his art made it into Playboy years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But like,
well, I wouldn't necessarily say this is just a children's book. I mean, it is, obviously it's laid out like a children's book, but the story itself, I think it's applicable to people of all ages,
right?
Demographics and backgrounds.
Yeah, that makes. I mean, the idea of setting a boundary and not giving too much is of course applicable for all. Yeah,
and what happens, the consequences when also you're on the other side of that where you're taking and taking and taking.
Yeah.
I mean, it gives a pretty good comparison to both sides of the give and take relationship. So I think it's one of them books that I think everybody should read at least once. I would put that in that just because of the message behind it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, it's a fantastic book. It's, I mean, honestly, in its lack of color and using contrasting colors to create a iconic imagery that is easily replicable, that is easy recognizable, is great. And the language using for the tree feels like a giving parent, and even as a kid was a depressing read towards the end. I get that.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's what I was reading. What are some things you were reading this week? We can, if you want to touch on a couple things real quick.
I mean, I honestly read a lot. I had a week off, and also I was traveling.
Okay, so, well, tell me one thing you read. And then
I read all of Batgirls.
All of Batgirl.
11 issues.
11 issues? Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's fantastic. It's a great little book. It's it's the one 2021. No worries. Where we have Stephanie and Cassandra. It's honestly a great book. Really cute, really sweet. Also been catching up on a ton of Superman. So, really just a fun little superhero week for me this week. So it was nice. Yeah,
I've been meaning to, like I always say, I've been meaning to read, but I keep getting swept away in nonsensical stuff that I'm doing. But this weekend, reading is on my agenda. All right, well, let's talk about what's coming out this week, shall we?
Hey, yeah.
Get into New Comic Book Day. Boom! It is a brand new week. And we missed last week. We do apologize again, scheduling issue. But I would love to hear what you guys were excited about last week. And you can drop us a line at panelpicspodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah.
You can comment below where you're watching this video. Hit us on social media. Maybe if we get enough interest on social media, maybe we should create a Facebook group just dedicated to this podcast and comic books. Something we can talk about. But we'd love to hear what you're excited for. Not just last week, but this week. Because we only pick a handful of comics that we like to highlight, and there's so many things that come out. So the first thing that we're going to talk about this week, I believe, is your pick, which is, of course, Absolute Power.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of the... Oh, I realize I have A and Z on this list. Because if you go by alphabet...
You did, yeah, I know. I go by alphabet.
Yeah, I have both. Yeah. For starters, I'm not a fan of this cover. This stretched PNG. I thought it was a fake cover for a minute. But it's the beginning of the new, Ultimates line, but for DC. So I'm curious. I'm seeing where it's going. I'm reading some of the tie-in books like Superman. So it's going to be an interesting book.
This is their big summer event, which kind of the obviously with Marvel, they're doing their big Blood Hunt event over the summer. Absolute Power is the DC's big crossover.
But also it's turning into Absolute DC, which is like their Ultimates. Like they're making a whole new...
That's right. Yep.
So this is a good place to start. Yeah.
Well, that's good. If you want to get into their new, more what would you call the Absolute? Isn't that kind of like their DC Black? Then is it going to be more mature, or is it?
I don't think it's going to be more mature. Ultimate. So is this going to be like a new universe? I'm assuming.
Okay.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Oh, sorry. All right. Well, that looks like a fun book. I don't know that I'll check it out because you know how I feel about mainstream comics.
Fair.
So that brings us to my first pick for the week, which is not a mainstream. I mean, I guess kind of, but Dark Horse isn't a complete mainstream book. No. But this book looks really fun because it's taking a different look at you're looking at African folklore in this book, which I think is interesting because a lot of times when it comes to any kind of folklore, it's usually, Greek or Roman gods and things like that. So I'm kind of excited about this. But the main character, just, boring life, but then he discovers that his dad was actually Anansi, the spider, which is a trickster god of African folklore.
I know those stories, yeah.
Okay, perfect. And then it basically kicks off because he finds out he has a twin brother. So hence, in that,
the plural,
title. Yeah, the plural.
Yeah.
So,
I loved the story of Anansi. That'd be fun.
Yeah, so basically they're a Nazi, but the Nazi boys, but they're both gods and they're kind of battling each other, I suppose. But yeah, It looks like a fun read. It looks, it's something different, I think, too. It's written by Oh, and the story, that's even better. I didn't even realize this when I looked at it earlier. I missed that and I should have saw it right away. The story's by Neil Gaiman.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
Yep,
that's gonna
Neil
be a good
Gaiman, and then
book.
it's written by Mark Bernadette. So this should be a good pick. I'll probably pick this up. Of course, I got to look at the artwork because I'm pretty picky when it comes to art.
That's
But
fair. That's
it
fair.
looks like a fun read.
Looks like a cute
Uh,
one.
Next one definitely looks like a cute one.
It looks so cute.
Dungeons and Dimwits.
I
I think this
was
is adorable.
it's by a different publishing company that I'm used to. I believe it was like called Alien, Alien Press. It looks really cute. It just
It's
looks like a
Dren Productions.
Dren Productions. Yes. Okay. Yeah. There was another one I was looking at that was Alien, and I got those two mixed up. Honestly, it looks like a cute little like humor and fantasy book.
Hmm.
I mean, the last one I read was Total Party Killer, and by a completely different press. But I love fantasy and I like humor, and I always am waiting for a comic to make me laugh. So yeah, this book looks great. Apparently, a team falls into their game, and they're fighting for someone's life. And I love humor. I love fantasy, and it reminds me of one of my favorite books that I read last year, which is Die, where a bunch of people fall into a fantasy world and save their friends, but it was serious.
Yep.
I'm in. This looks cute. I'm
I like
down.
it. I got Die actually the first trade. I haven't read it yet, but
Oh,
I
it's
heard it's really good.
fantastic.
That's what
It's
I've
one of my
heard.
favorites.
Yeah, like I said, I got to do a lot of catching up. I really think that it does look cute. This kind of reminds me of not quite Munchkin, but
I can see
the
that.
art style kind of has
Yeah.
that Steve Jackson ish
Yeah.
kind of.
The
But
proportions of everybody. Yeah, I get
yeah,
that. Yeah.
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 So yeah, it looks. I'll probably look at this one too. This looks like it's kind of funny because this week, some of the picks that you picked, I was like, ooh, I'm
Yeah.
pretty stoked about them because I
Yeah.
might even pick them up. I was like, dang, he beat me to it. So the next thing we've got is self help. This just, I don't know, it caught me. I like the cover for some reason caught my attention when I was looking at what was coming out this week. It looks like a fun story. I assume it's going to be, and it's by Image Comics, obviously.
Yeah.
So I love me some Image Comics. But the story is a down on his luck rideshare driver. Jerry Hauser's existence is a bleak one, especially because every fare he picks up tells him how much he looks like uber successful self help guru Darren Hart. But after a twist of fate, Jerry's given the chance of a lifetime, which, if he's not careful, may well end in his lifetime. So begins this California noir, and of course, you know me, I like my crime stories.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's just a rollicking and gleefully lurid pulp crime story of our time, as they describe it. So it's a crime story. It looks fun. I imagine just guessing without reading it, without reading it. I have a idea, he probably the self-help guru probably dies and they probably draft him to
Yep.
take his place kind of situation. That's what I'm guessing. So, but it does look pretty fun to me. So, and then the next book I think is one of my picks too. And
I think so.
yes,
That looks
so
great.
it does look great. I don't know if I'll pick it up. I'm going to look at the art, but the reason I made this as one of my picks is, again, it's crime, but that wasn't the reason for this one. The reason I picked this one is because this is a collaboration of like 10 artists, and they're doing like a continued story. It's not like an anthology. I don't know where it went. I'm trying to pull it up in my alphabetical order. Where is it? Uh-oh, it's not showing up on here now. Uh-oh, it was showing up over here. Hold on. I don't know what happened there, but maybe it's got moved or something. But anyway, it's a tech noir. It's 36-page black and white cyberpunk comic book. Yeah, and it's an experimental collaboration between 10 different cartoonists and artists telling one single self-contained story. So that's one thing that's cool about this. It is a little more expensive. It's $10, but it's just a one-shot situation. But yeah, it's got a bunch of different artists involved, and I think that's something that I don't know that's been, maybe it probably has been done before, at least in anthologies, but I don't know if they've ever had like 10 artists and cartoonists work together to make one story. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, that sounds right up my alley. That sounds amazing. I mean, I might
Yeah.
pick that up. Yeah.
Yep. So I've definitely got to look at that. And then the final pick for the week is it Zatana, which is one of my favorite characters. So that's
Yes.
when I saw this was coming out, I was like, I'm in.
Yeah, Zatanna is
Sign me right up.
also one of mine. Like I actually just read her Paul Dini run. That was one of the books I read this week.
Nice. Yeah, I
Um,
actually have. I've been looking for some trades of hers, but I do. I have a couple. I have the Night Terrors Zantana.
yeah.
I even have a couple action figures of Zantana.
Oh,
Mm-mm.
nice.
Yep. So
Um, Tamaki is a writer I love a lot. He did Super Sons, I believe, and I love him a lot. Zatanna, I love a ton. This is a Black Label book, and during an interview, it was stated that this is a character that gets to like mess with the language of comics, and I couldn't agree more. Like one
ooh.
of my favorite issues, just I was reading, was just she got to play along with palindromes and how powerful that is with palindromes for her. And I go, that was amazing. This is gonna be really creative, and I'm excited.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm gonna definitely
Yeah,
check it out. I like a good. I don't feel like Zantana gets
no,
enough play in the old world of comics. But that's our picks this week. I know this is kind of a shorter episode, but that's because we're both trying to get out of here. But we do have to go through the honorable mentions. I see there's a lot of. I'm not going to go through and list a bunch of them, but there's some Absolute Power.
yep,
Obviously, that's coming out. But then you've got a lot of Blood Hunt stuff coming out this week. A lot of X-Men '97 stuff. Some
yep,
second and third prints, alternate covers,
yes.
things like that. Not necessarily. Not necessarily anything new, but there is a lot of Blood Hunt this week. You've got the Red Band edition, you've got Blood Hunt, just the regular Blood Hunt series. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff. I'm just looking to see if there's anything.
There's a new
Cave Woman, Killer
yes,
Curve
Killer
Supreme.
Curves. Yep. There is on the reverse of that. There's Sonic Spring Breakers, I believe. There's a
Oh,
new Sonic the Hedgehog for one off. There's
Leapfrog is coming out this week.
yep,
The next, yep.
Godzilla
Um,
#1 from Marvel Facsimile.
ooh, yeah.
Which speaking of which, almost like a ton of Godzilla IDW books are on sale right now for Humble Bundle. So
Oh, that sounds
yeah,
good.
hmm
Yeah, I can always get down with that. You got little marvels that kind of look cute,
yeah,
giant sized little marvels.
exactly. It looks like Scotty Young like just really like taking it over.
There's a new Good Boy coming out, which I'm a big fan of. Good Boy, Good Boy, Red Moon over Kyoto.
Oh, nice.
Um,
World
I
Tree.
wonder, yeah, that's
Yeah.
it's just other for the list, but Good Boy is a fun um series. The main character is like an assassin. It's basically if John Wick was a dog.
Oh, I'm down. That sounds dope.
Fighting
I
like
love
the
that.
opposite kind of, yeah, so like
Yeah.
the main character's like a dog and he's like an
Nice.
assassin. It's pretty good. They do like short runs, so they have like the first one was only like 4 or 5 issues,
Okay.
and then the second volume same thing, so you can always get down with that. Yeah, of course you got some Spawn. There's a new Hack Slash coming out.
Ooh, nice.
And the next Helverine is coming out. Obviously, always tons of Spawn. A couple other number ones. I don't know if they'll be good, but Lucky Cap Sprouts. You got My Life as a Loser,
Yep.
which is coming out. It's a webtoon, but there's like multiple issues coming out on that. So, yeah, I don't know if there's anything else that you want to highlight.
I said Sonic the Hedgehog.
You did.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, Skin Deep. That kind of looks like
Yep.
could be a cool one too. Yeah, a lot of Spider-Man, Star Wars. The usual suspects. Superman. There's a bunch of Superman stuff coming out
Yep.
this week. Looks like a bunch of Spider-Man stuff, and yeah, a lot of independent stuff. So, well, like I said, we would love to hear what you guys are excited about. These are our picks. We always love to hear your picks. You can send us that email, panelpicspodcast@gmail.com. Leave a comment below the video. Maybe leave a comment wherever you listen to this podcast. Maybe on social media. We're at panelpicspod on every platform. We do apologize for the shorter episode. But next week we'll be back with probably a regular episode.
Yeah.
We kind of been, both of us have been busy doing comedy and had some scheduling conflicts and so on and so forth. So we will be back next week and try to do a little bit longer episode. We'll be a little more prepared than we were today. And with that, keep supporting your local comic book shops.
This has been a Tape Deck Media production. Thank you for listening.